From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. Today's podcast, I have my good friend, Mr. Marcus Burnette of BlueHost with me, and we're going to talk about why you make a career change, what you consider when doing it. Grab a drink, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Hey everybody, Stunning Digital Marketing is your digital concierge. We help you put the pieces together to make your marketing success. Specialties we have including WordPress design and development, WordPress security, which is one of our most popular offerings, ads, and more. So if you want to succeed in the digital world, go on over to stunningdigitalmarketing.com and have a look at what we offer, and we'd be glad to help you. And let's jump on a call and make it happening. That's stunningdigitalmarketing.com. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. And today with me is somebody who's been on with me a couple of times before, Mr. Marcus Burnette of BlueHost this time. How are you, Marcus?
I'm doing pretty well, Rob. Still getting used to that a little bit. It's only been a couple of weeks, but yeah.
It has been. And you've been a busy boy. You've been reaching out in your new role, talking to agencies, trying to find out what makes them tick. I know we had a conversation last week and we talked a little bit about what agencies look for and all that good stuff. And I think it's really important, I'll say, for web hosts to stay in tune with the agency market, because I think that can make their life really good or really bad, depending on how you want to play it.
Yeah, for sure. Agencies, it's no surprise. Agencies have lots of clients, lots of sites. It's obviously, gold mine, I guess, from a hosting standpoint, that if you can get in well with agencies, that, you stand a chance to have some decent business there with the clients and stuff. And Bluehost is clearly not the only company that is having conversations with agencies, but my goal is to make Bluehost the obvious choice for agencies. So that's what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, the agencies are where you don't just pick up the one-offs, and hopefully your support costs drop because the agencies know what they're doing and things like that, right? It's not like dealing with an individual user where you've got a user who's a traditional user, and they have no technical background and they're calling saying help, where an agency client's calling saying help, but they've exhausted the 20 things already, right?
Yeah. It definitely spans the gamut of different technical abilities, I guess, when you look at agencies. Depends on kind of what they specialize in and how big the agencies are, right? How deep their employee roster goes, if you will, how technical an agency might be. But yeah, chances are if an agency is reaching out to you, they've done their due diligence. They've done everything they can to figure out what it is that might be the issue. And now they're reaching out for what might be maybe more difficult help, but at least they've done a lot of grunt work for you and ruling a lot of things out, which is helpful.
Yeah, it sure is. So what I wanted to talk today is, you just made a career move, and I need to start this talk by saying you and I both have amazing friends and colleagues at GoDaddy. We do. And I need to put that out there right away. And I've got a couple sites on GoDaddy, including a large WooCommerce site. We've talked about that over your time there and offline and extra. So we need to make this clear that we both love the guys at GoDaddy, but sometimes we make career moves for us. And that's really important. I did that the last time 15 years ago. I came out of healthcare. I've been in healthcare for 22 years, Marcus. And as an IT lead, I was running $1 million projects. The director called me in, had a little bit of a vendetta against me. I'd been on vacation for 3 weeks, and my first day back, I was gone. And, welcome home, Rob, from vacation. And at the time, my dad had pancreatic cancer, and we knew we were dealing with months, not and weeks, and not years. To be honest, pancreatic cancer, anybody doesn't know, the turnaround time is so low. And I had planned, and I was already kind of in that mode where I was transitioning into running a web dev agency, which turned into be a marketing agency. And I made that change for a number of reasons: family, friends, flexible work a little bit. I'm probably busier now than I've ever been, but that's another story. That's my choice, and so on. And kind of wanted to dive in. Did you make the switch, for career and for family?
Um, yeah, it's definitely a career shift transition for me. However, I will say that my about face isn't quite as much, it's not as much of an about face as, moving from healthcare to development.
Yep.
I'm still in the hosting space, still in the WordPress space. And I kind of just wanted to echo what you said up top, right? That's nothing to do with the team. I am quite fond of GoDaddy and the things that the team is doing over there, especially the folks in the WordPress space,
Mhm.
and especially the field marketing team that I was on. I've nothing but fantastic things to say about the people personally and the work that they're doing over there. That being said, the shift was, it felt like I had done what I wanted to do at on the field marketing team there. I felt like while I still want to be in person with the community, that maybe I wanted to travel a little bit less, which if you know anything about the field marketing team, it's all about being in person at events, and sharing both what GoDaddy was doing with attendees at the events and also bringing back information from attendees to GoDaddy to help improve products and stuff. And again, I definitely still want to be and plan to be at events in the community, but maybe not as frequently as I was doing there. And yeah, it just seemed like a good time for me to kind of transition over. This opportunity popped up on my radar, kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah.
When I read through what they were looking for, it was essentially a culmination of my background, having worked at an agency myself for 10 plus years, working in support, working in the community and being a big part of the WordPress community. It felt like something I needed to pursue just because of how closely the job description matched my resume, essentially. Um, so I decided to, pursue it at least and see what doors might be open there, and seemed to work out for me.
Yeah, and support's a tough one. Like, we're both looking at each other. We both worked in support. One of my roles in healthcare was I was the team leader for the internal call center. So I know the support gig, oh, more than most people. And I was also on call all the time. So I can tell you that's hard. And when you're doing that, especially when you're doing after hour support, and you're not as much, but it places a toll on you, your family, and everything else, and the stresses of support. Because 90% of the time when people come to you in support roles, they have a problem. So you're dealing with people with problems. They're not coming to you to say, "Hey, Marcus, I'm working on something new like I do," and saying, "Can you help me out?" Versus, "I got a problem and I'm stuck." Right?
Yeah, that's definitely the case. When by the time they get to support, it's usually the problem, usually have already been frustrated by
Yeah.
the problem to some extent, so they're coming in hot maybe at times. And I try to take my experience and support and do this when others don't, but you rarely get much more than a, 5-star rating at the end of it to say whether you did a decent job or not. So I've taken that experience and I make sure to, adequately thank support folks that have done a good job helping me out, because I know that it by and large fairly thankless.
Yeah. Um, I would say a big part of this, just knowing you as well as I do, is the travel. You have a family, a busy family. You have activities on the go all the time. Um, and I just know as somebody who does some travel, it does wear on you after a while. It's hard when you pick up, you go to a word camp, and then you got to pick up 2 days later and come home. And that's on the weekend when, families are busy and people are busy and things got to happen, right?
Yeah, for sure. I love traveling. I love being in new places. Um, but I more love doing those things with my family
Yep.
than by myself. And so, yeah, getting a chance to kind of be home and with my family a little bit more is great. I have two girls. They're 14 and 11, so they're young enough to be sweet and not old enough to want to run away from mom and dad just yet. They want to hang out with us. They've got lots of fun things going on. One's a theater girl. They both play basketball.
Yep.
And so we have a lot of that stuff going on. And, these are, I don't know, kind of prime years, I think. They're great to
Yeah.
have, old enough to have conversations with, and they're doing lots of fun things. And it's really only a matter of a few years before they're off doing their own thing. So this is definitely that, important time, I think, in their lives for, us to be around and doing things together as much as possible.
Hmm. And yeah, so I think that's important. I think family is like utmost, and I always say to people, you work to live, um, you don't live to work, and work
Yeah.
helps you get there. And if it's you're on the go all the time, that's stress enough. Um, how's the transition been in making the move in the BlueHost? And they're based, I forget where they're based out of, so help me out here. They're overseas, right?
No, they're based actually right here in Florida in Jacksonville. That is
Okay.
where the headquarters are. I believe back in the day they were based out of Arizona,
Yep.
just like GoDaddy is, but their headquarters are in Jacksonville, Florida. So I have not been there, but they're within a couple hours drive of where I live in Orlando here.
Hmm.
So I assume I'll end up there at some point to check it out. But yeah, the transition has been good, a bit bittersweet. Like I said, I really enjoyed the team that I was with at GoDaddy. So
Hmm.
not having the, daily conversations there. I mean, we've still kept in touch, but not having the daily conversations there is um, you know, I'm missing that a little bit still.
Yep.
That being said, I didn't move to Bluehost completely, alone in and not knowing anybody. As is the case for the WordPress community in general, we know lots of folks from lots of different companies.
Yep.
So I stepped into these shoes at Bluehost knowing a solid couple dozen folks in the company already in this WordPress space, several of them that I now get to work with fairly closely. So the transition in has been fairly easy. I've had lots of people reach out and say, welcome to, within the internal Microsoft teams, welcome to the team. Glad to have you here and all of that stuff. And I've gotten to kind of hit the ground running a little bit. They've given me some autonomy to kind of get myself settled in and learn the products and
Good.
make a plan for myself, which has been really nice. So yeah, it's been a pretty good transition so far.
Yeah, and then the other thing you were saying was, and it kind of resonates with me. You mentioned that you felt you had done all you could do at GoDaddy at the time, and that's a big one for me because I always say to people, I'm driven by challenge, not by necessarily money. The money will come. I believe that wholeheartedly. But I'm very much a challenge-driven person, and I put you in that same pot, so to speak, Marcus. You like the challenge.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. I did say that there's always work to be done. It's not that I
Yeah,
ran out of things to do that
I know.
GoDaddy hit all of its marks and has done everything it's going to do. They're going to keep working, they're going to keep growing and improving, and certainly I could have a hint there. I think what drew me to this position was um maybe the ability to have a more of a voice and be able to have a greater impact,
Yep.
specifically on the agency experience at Bluehost than maybe the impact that I was able to have where I was on the field team. I really enjoyed, again, being in the community with everyone, and I still plan to do that. But I think I have a greater chance at impacting agencies more directly in this role than I was able to on the field team.
Yeah. Do you miss working for an agency at times?
Um, no.
No.
um, I miss I would say that I miss being creative and
Yes.
designing and developing things, but
Yep.
that's where side projects come in. I've always been a huge advocate of people doing side projects where you're not on someone else's deadline. You don't have to answer to someone else's design critique or, make the logo bigger or any of that stuff. You can kind of do what you want. So, the biggest current side project that I have obviously is the WP
B
World.
World.
I get a
Yeah.
chance to build the WordPress directory that I want to build there in the way that I want to do it on my time. And so there, no deadlines there. So I still get a chance to be creative. I still get a chance to write code, keep my skills sharp there,
Yes.
think strategically about how I would, market the site, present it on social media and all of that stuff. And that kind of fulfills that for me anytime I feel that draw to doing the agency work. I can jump into the WP World and continue to build that up.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And you don't have the stress of dealing with the agency clients, which I can tell you at times is a stress monster. And sometimes it's tough. Sometimes it's really tough. And
The
when
arguments
you
I have with myself in my head are hard enough. I don't have to deal with other people on that.
yeah, there's a few of those. Um, yeah, so that's really interesting. And I think people need to really look at their careers and say, okay, where do you want to go and where does your family fit into that? I think too many times we take promotions or stuff and people don't think about their families and they don't think about the hours and they don't think about the times away. So you should be commended for doing that because I think a lot of people don't look that way.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. This is the first time that I've gone from one remote job to another, right? So
Mhm.
my office is what's behind me right now. It
Yeah.
was a week ago, it was a month ago, it was a year ago, it will be next week and next month. So the office doesn't change, the commute doesn't change. There are a lot of things that don't change, but there are some things that do change, like the travel time and that. And so this is kind of, and my girls are now, like I said, 14 and 11.
Yep.
Kind of shared this opportunity with the family. Talked it over with my wife first, of course. But then we kind of had the ability to sort of talk it over together, and I got their thoughts about me being home more or any of that kind of stuff, and it was definitely interesting to kind of involve the family in that process because, like you said, it really ultimately does affect the family. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it seemed like a weird thing to just make that decision myself when there are so many people around me that are affected by it.
Mm.
So we had a chance to talk it through and figure out what made the most sense. And yeah, it was definitely a family decision.
Yeah. I think remote jobs, you mentioned that. I think for a lot of people, that's hard. You and I both do it. I've done it for, I'm going on year 16, give or take. So there you go. The hardest part I have with remote jobs is connection sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Calls like this help, Slack chats help, DMs help, but it's not always the same, right? And I think that's one of the problems we struggle with in a remote job business is that connection with others.
Yeah, you can definitely get siloed in not just your own office space, but your own headspace if you're not
Yeah.
talking to other people. Like you said, the Zoom chats and the Slack chats do help some, at least mentally. You can kind of get out of your head a little bit and have some conversations. That's where like word camps and stuff factor in for me. I get a chance to go spend some time with other people. Meetups in town are easy enough, right? Much lower commitment
Yeah.
to hotel room and all of that stuff to find meetups. They don't even necessarily have to be in the WordPress space. There are plenty of meetups in, I mean, I live I'm fortunate enough to live near Orlando. There are lots of people here, lots of tech folks. So I can go to a JavaScript meetup downtown or some PHP meetup or whatever and be able to talk to people that are in an
Hmm.
adjacent related space to me, and we can nerd out over web technologies still, even if they're not WordPress people. But sometimes really just this change of scenery. Sometimes I'll just grab the laptop and run up to Starbucks or wherever, just to be out of the house and out of this room and talk to somebody, even if it's not about WordPress or not about it,
Yeah.
and just talk
Yeah.
to them about living
I
in the
can
town
tell
that
you
I
that
live in.
that's
And that's good for you.
that's my hour tomorrow afternoon after the doctor's. I'm on Thursday. I mean, I'm gonna run to a Starbucks or a Tim Hortons and write for a while. And everybody looks at me and says, "Why do you do that?" And I say, "Oh, I just need a change of scenery sometimes."
Yeah, and but it has to be intentional, right? I mean,
Yep.
because we'll naturally just I'll just sit in this seat at this desk for hours on end unless I'm intentional about getting up and moving space. And it's so healthy for you mentally and physically to move spaces, to just be somewhere else for a couple hours, and not
Yep.
just sit in the same space the whole time.
Or I'll take a break midday and go for a walk. That's very common, just to get my butt moving. And sometimes just clearing your head does wonders to the creative brain, right? So, you know,
Yeah, when the Zoom and Slack conversations are overwhelming and you don't want to talk to somebody else and just need to get away, then yes, walking outside is perfect.
and by the way, putting the phone on mute because you know where Slack sits in my case, don't you? Probably yours too.
Yeah, mine
It's
too.
probably
Yeah.
on your phone. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, they'll find you. Believe me. It
I'm not good at separating those things. So I have Slack and email and Teams and all of that on my phone. I don't like to be surprised when I get back to my desk,
I don't either. I went
but
through
that does run with the negatives, the disadvantage of being permanently connected to all of it.
Yeah, I went through a spiel in the spring where I decided to pull all social media off my phone, everything. And I have to tell you, that lasted 3 weeks. And then it's like,
It sounds healthy, but
yeah, but it's faster to do some stuff on the phone than it is to do in a web browser. For example,
yeah, it's true.
managing the LinkedIn group that Courtney and I run, it's easier to manage it on the phone. The tools are easier in the mobile app than on the web browser. So it's
Yeah,
like,
that makes
I don't
sense.
like it. So what I ended up doing was I added things back on one at a time. And then I broke down last week or the week before, and I threw the dreaded Facebook back on my phone too. And
Mm.
that was the end of that. So, so you understand where I'm coming from.
Absolutely.
And I've even done smart things like I don't know if you know, but I have a separate VoIP line for my business than my cell phone.
Hmm.
It goes to an app on my phone, but it's just I've even tried to separate it that way, and people still find me. It doesn't. It
Track you
doesn't.
down.
Yeah, it's a never-ending battle. How's your family adjusted to the job switch now that you're 2 weeks into it? I have to ask.
Yeah, pretty good. Again, it's been a short period, so I have not had any travel yet in this position, but wouldn't have with GoDaddy yet in that same time frame either. So not a whole lot has changed logistically. They still head off. My wife's a teacher. They all head off to
Yep.
school. I'm in this office most of the day, and then they come home from school. Honestly, their schedules are so busy right now that I'm not sure that they even noticed that I made the
Okay.
switch already. That's
That they
I'm half joking. I mean, they know that I made the switch, but yeah, it's been business as usual for the rest of the family so far, just because of their busy schedules and my relative unchanged location here in the office in our
Yep.
house.
It's not like you're driving 20 minutes to work or an hour to work or something like that. So
Yeah,
no.
it's kind of weird to think about those days. When I did work at the agency, it was in town and it was in the office, and that's been 5 years ago now, and
Yeah.
I've been remote since then. It was very strange to transition to remote at that time, and now I think it's strange to drive into an office every day.
Hey, Marcus, thanks for just sharing your experience. I think some people need to really look at what they're doing and say, where does this fit into my life plan? And I think that's what you've done really well here, as well as I know you. I always appreciate you jumping on and talking. Good luck with your time at BlueHost. People can find you over there, I'm sure, if they need you for something and want to talk agency. And
Yeah,
I know you,
absolutely. I think, the biggest takeaway for me is um just be open to opportunities that
yep,
come along, and then evaluate how those affect you and your family, and that's top consideration, like you said. That's the top priority. So, yeah, that's the takeaway there. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, I'm on the same place on Twitter. I'm at on the WP World. If you're in the WordPress space, please go sign up there
mhm,
and you can find me there. And otherwise, I'm generally pretty much just as easy to be found online as I always have been.
yep. Thanks, Marcus. Have yourself a wonderful day, my friend. Be well.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you very much for listening to the STM Show. The STM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital concierge. For all your digital marketing needs, especially WordPress security, jump on over to stunningdigitalmarketing.com and let's help you put the pieces together and make your business succeed in the marketing realm. That's stunningdigitalmarketing.com. A very special thank you to Marcus Burnette for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. This podcast is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I love you. I miss you very much. And thanks for all the inspiration over the years and your caring, your understanding, and helping me grow as an individual. Thank you, Dad.